Hello, let's talk about some fruit and vegetable consumption for my data analysis project for PPY 720. My name is Dawn Matus. I have a master's degree in nutrition sciences and I am a nutrition and dietetics technician registered. So I kind of know what I'm talking about. So the problem statement that I came up with is very simple and straightforward. Americans do not consume the recommended amount of fruits and vegetables. I came up with 3 data sources and then I kind of had to change direction a little bit. So I'm using the behavior risk factor surveillance system, also known as BRFIS, and the youth risk behavior surveillance system, also known as URBIS. I was going to use What We Eat in America, but when I really got into it, I realized that they were looking more at nutrients than like food groups like fruits and vegetables, or they were looking at specific like apples and oranges and stuff like that, and that just didn't really suit for this presentation and for this project. So I decided to go a different route. And another data source that I used was precipitation totals by state 2021, and I will talk a little bit more about that next. I had 2 ideas and then I came up with a question out of the blue this morning. I decided to compare the BRFIS maps for fruit consumption and vegetable consumption, and these maps report the percentage of people who say they consume 1 or more servings per day. I wanted to see if fruit and vegetable consumption's parallel, like if people do 1 or more servings of fruits, they also do 1 or more servings of vegetables. And I also wanted to see if it paralleled among states, like if it followed the same kind of percentages among states. And I also wanted to compare some data between BRFIS and URBIS to see if youth and adult consumption patterns are the same, to see if perhaps maybe youth eating habits improve as they become adults or regress as they become adults. And then the other thing that I was thinking about is, does fruit and vegetable consumption have anything to do with climate? With the idea that in a wetter climate, it's easier to grow fruits and vegetables, they should be more readily available, therefore you should be eating them more. Versus arid climates where it's harder to grow fruits and vegetables, so you might not have them available as much, and therefore not consume them as much. That was my pseudo-hypothesis. So let's look at the fruit consumption. This is a BRFIS map, and it reports fruit consumed 1 or more times per day. And I didn't want to get too detailed with this, so I stayed at a national/state level. And my immediate observation was that states are grouped together. Like we have this swath of states here, we have southern, midwestern states here, northeastern states all kind of have the same, groupings. And then this is the key, crude prevalence, and this is percentage points. So there's like 4 different categories of percentage. There's 4 different levels of percentages. The numbers look kind of arbitrary. I'm not really sure how they group them together, but it is what it is. So you can see that we have quite a variety throughout the United States. And this caught my eye right here. This swath of states right here, for some reason, caught my eye. Well, actually, I know why they caught my eye. Because vegetable consumption changed. You can see kind of the colors kind of move back and forth, which is kind of cool. And you see, I'm going to go back to see this swath of states right here. This is vegetable consumption. This is the lowest percentage category. Some of these states, California, for fruit consumption, was in the highest percentage category. Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas were in the Okay, not the best category, but they were still not in the bottom. But this whole southwest, southern edge of the country is very low in their vegetable consumption. This was surprising to me because, again, I was thinking that they might parallel, that states might have the same kind of numbers for vegetable consumption as they did for fruit consumption. So this really did surprise me. Another thing I noticed is that it's a little messier, okay? Like for fruit consumption, they're a little bit more grouped together. You've got a group of the cream color here, you got a group of the cream color here, your dark blue is up here, you have a lot of this lighter green here. But with here, it's kind of all over the place except for this big swath here. You have a big arm of cream here. The Northeast is a little bit less blue. New York lost some. And all the colors are kind of mixed in. So vegetable consumption doesn't follow as much of a pattern as fruit consumption does. Very interesting. So then my next step was to look at climate. And to look at climate, I used Statista.com and I just looked for numbers for 2021, precipitation totals. And this Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia were the top 5 as far as precipitation in inches, and then Nevada, New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, and Montana were the bottom 5 as far as precipitation in inches. And then I just filled out this little table that I created, and I put whether the wet climate was arid or wet, the precipitation in inches, and then the fruit and vegetable data taken from that map. Because on the BRFIS website, if you click on the state, it will give you the state percentage. Okay, so, and these colors here kind of correspond with the colors on the map. So this really surprised me. Nothing panned out for me the way I thought it was going to do on this project. Okay, so the states in arid climates, so these bottom 5 are the arid climates, the top 5 are the wet climates. The states in the arid climates had nearly the same consumption percentages of vegetables as wet climates. So we see 76.8%, 74.4%, 79.4% for the top 3 states with the most precipitation. Okay, and then on the bottom 3 with the most arid climate, the least amount of precipitation, had 76.0%, 77.7%, and 78.4% eating 1 or more vegetable per day. This was shocking to me. Obviously, my pseudo-hypothesis of climate having to do with fruit and vegetable consumption was just thrown out the window. That has nothing to do with it. And even these middle ones were just really surprising to me. I mean, they were just kind of all, I mean, Montana has the highest percentage of all 10 of these states, and it is on the arid side. That's crazy to me. And fruit kind of followed the same pattern, but what is a little bit different on the fruit side of it is that the 3 most arid states had higher fruit consumptions than the 3 most wet states. That's just weird. I don't get that. So that pseudo-hypothesis has been thrown out the window. I might look into it a little bit more later, but yeah, I wasn't expecting that. So when we look at this youth data, the problem with the youth data and the BRFIS, they measure different things, okay? They had 2 categories related to fruits and vegetables, and they were as such. Did not eat fruit or drink 100% fruit juices during the 7 days before the survey, which sounds crazy to me. did not eat vegetables during the 7 days before the survey. So, very different measures than eating 1 or more servings a day of fruit or vegetable. But I went ahead and I wrote out the data and I looked at it and I studied it. Um, and what I'm seeing is that it does kind of track, okay? Because these numbers are a little higher, right? Fruit consumption, not having any fruit consumption during the 7 days before the survey was done, or not having any fruit consumption or vegetable consumption 5 days before the survey is done, obviously that means their fruit and vegetable consumption is kind of low. So it does kind of track along with what I was seeing in the Burfus maps, but that's a big stretch to kind of compare the two. So this was kind of a wash too. So when it comes to everything, the problem statement, that definitely rings true. Americans do not consume the recommended amount of fruits and vegetables. My data sources are good, but I have to keep practicing at that. I have to keep trying to find the right data sources. For the Burfus yielded great data, and I made some great observations. Yearbus, I need to learn how to use that one because it's slightly different. And, Statista, however you pronounce that, I love that site anyway because you can get a lot of statistics on it. My 2 ideas and a question, comparing the maps for fruit consumption and vegetable consumption to see if fruit and vegetable consumption parallels. I give that a thumbs down. It doesn't really parallel between fruit and vegetable consumption, and then the states are very different in percentage categories, so I gave that a thumbs down. Comparing data between the Burfus and the Yearbus to see if youth and adult consumption patterns are the same, I gave that a meh. Nah, not really. You can't really compare those two measures because they're very, very different. And you can kind of make an inference that maybe this is happening and maybe it's kind of the same thing going on, but it's not really, it's really a stretch. And then, is fruit and vegetable consumption higher in wetter climates compared to arid climates? That would be a big old nope. Nope, nope, nope. That proved to be very not true. So all in all, this was very fun. I learned some things, and as a nutrition professional, these are things that I did not know. So looking at this data was really fun. And these are my references. Thank you.